Today we witness a dark chapter where greatness is forged not by words but with vital essence and cold iron. Picture a freezing empire asleep in dark medieval shadows, completely blind to the modern world. Now picture a giant tyrant dragging this proud nation to the future by severing their sacred beards. He abandoned the old capital, forcing thousands to perish and fall to build a city on a swamp. Was Peter a visionary genius or a ruthless monster? The brutal truth will surely shock you. In the late 17th century, the vast Russian Empire was isolated and frozen in time. While Western Europe embraced science and global trade, Russia remained trapped in a dark medieval age. The powerful Boyar nobles ruled the court with absolute arrogance and outdated traditions. They wore heavy, restrictive fur coats and stroked their incredibly long, untamed, and sacred beards. To these conservative men, any change from the outside world was considered an evil and toxic threat. Then came young Tsar Peter, a massive figure standing over 2 meters tall with fierce, burning eyes. He despised the suffocating traditions of Moscow and dreamed of a powerful, modern maritime fleet. Peter knew that a peaceful, gradual evolution would never work for such a massive and stubborn land. Violent force and tyranny were the only tools strong enough to awaken his deeply sleeping nation. In an unprecedented move, the Tsar left his golden throne to travel across Western Europe. Disguised as a common laborer, the absolute monarch of Russia walked into a Dutch shipyard. He lived in a tiny wooden hut, wearing rough, dirty clothes, sweating under the heavy summer sun. Peter learned the art of building warships by swinging a heavy iron axe with his own blistered hands. Yet, while he studied modern science, a dark rebellion suddenly erupted back in freezing Moscow. The Streltsy guards tried to overthrow his vision, wanting to keep Russia completely isolated. Hearing the news, Peter rushed home with a burning fury that would forever traumatize the royal court. He crushed the uprising without mercy, ordering the ultimate judgment of 1,000 rebel guards. Historical accounts say the enraged Tsar personally delivered fatal judgments in the snowy square. Crimson stained the frozen ground as the fallen were displayed from the city walls to terrorize his foes. Imagine casting judgment on your own royal guards. Could you do it to save your dying nation? With the opposition silenced by fear, Peter launched his most shocking and humiliating law ever. He declared war on the sacred Russian beard, viewing it as a stubborn symbol of backward ignorance. At a grand banquet, the Tsar suddenly pulled out massive iron shears and faced the terrified Boyars. Noblemen screamed in horror as their cherished long beards were tragically severed in front of everyone. To refuse meant final judgment. Those who begged to keep their facial hair had to pay a huge tax. They were forced to carry a copper beard token, a heavy coin proving they paid for their medieval pride. But Peter did not stop there. He wanted to visually erase the past from the streets of the capital. Royal decrees ordered guards to physically cut the long traditional coats of nobles right at the knees. The elite were strictly forced to wear tight European jackets and uncomfortable modern clothes. This cultural trauma tore the nation's identity apart, but the Tsar was only getting started. He knew landlocked Moscow would never become a great naval power in the European theater. Therefore, he made the most insane decision of his reign, completely abandoning the ancient capital. He pointed his sword at a desolate, freezing swamp located directly beside the Baltic Sea. This miserable wasteland would become St. Petersburg, his shining window to the glorious Western world. To build this dream, Peter relentlessly drafted hundreds of thousands of starving peasant laborers. They were marched to the frozen marshlands, forced to dig into the freezing mud with their bare, broken hands. Lacking proper tools, these broken men carried heavy stones in their shirts while battling deadly diseases. According to ancient records, the losses were staggering as winter storms wiped out entire worker camps. Men collapsed from sheer exhaustion, sinking directly into the muddy foundations of the new palaces. It is widely said the beautiful streets of St. Petersburg were paved with tragic mortal remains. If building a grand city costs 100,000 human lives, is the beauty truly worth the tragic cost? Despite the tragedy, his ruthless obsession slowly began to yield spectacular global results. Rising from the mud, grand European architecture finally pierced the foggy Russian sky. He focused his iron will on building an unstoppable modern navy from absolutely nothing. Using the skills he learned in Holland, he ordered the rapid construction of massive wooden warships. Armed with powerful cannons, the Grand Russian fleet sailed into the Baltic Sea to challenge their foes. The Swedish Empire, a global superpower, laughed at Peter's newly trained military forces. At the legendary Battle of Poltava, the Russian army utterly crushed the Swedish king. The spectacular victory sent shockwaves across Europe, shifting the balance of global power. The once completely isolated frozen wasteland had forcefully evolved into the Russian Empire. Peter the Great proudly stood on his ship deck, watching his modern fleet dominate the Northern Sea. He had successfully broken the medieval curse, dragging millions toward a much brighter future. Yet, the agonizing screams of the vanquished guards and fallen serfs still echo through the palace halls. Scholars debate his controversial legacy, questioning the steep price of sudden modernization. He was a visionary genius who built modern schools and industries that elevated his country. Yet the religious elite fiercely condemned his actions as the dark work of the Antichrist. Priests whispered in the dark corners, terrified by the sudden influx of foreign Western ideas. The Tsar ordered the translation of scientific books, forcefully destroying old religious myths. He even forced noblewomen to attend European dances, breaking ancient sacred customs. For centuries, Russian women were hidden away in dark rooms, strictly forbidden to socialize. Now they were dragged into the glittering ballrooms, beautifully dressed in fine French silk and lace. The Boyars watched in absolute horror as their daughters danced closely with foreign officers. But Peter absolutely did not care about their feelings. His cold eyes were fixed on the future. To ensure his reforms survived, he created a strict meritocracy based on loyal state service. Birthright meant nothing. A poor commoner could rise to massive power if he served the empire. This radical system completely shattered the ancient noble bloodlines that controlled the dark past. Meanwhile, the long Great Northern War against Sweden continued to drain the empire's heavy wealth. To fund his massive armies, Peter invented heavy taxes on absolutely everything. Citizens were fiercely taxed on leather boots, hats, beehives, and even oak coffins for their dead. The heavy financial burden crushed the peasantry, leading to endless starvation and deep grief. violent revolts broke out in the southern provinces, driven by desperate and starving farmers. The Tsar responded with terrifying brutality, crushing them entirely without mercy. Thousands of angry rebels faced a tragic fate upon tall stakes along the frozen riverbanks. Their tragic remains served as a grim warning to anyone who dared defy his supreme authority. It was a horrific paradox. He modernized the nation by acting like an ancient, cruel warlord. Even his own royal son could not escape the crushing weight of his absolute iron discipline. His eldest son, Alexei, deeply hated the reforms and plotted with the conservative priests.
We proceed as planned.
When Peter discovered the dark treason, the furious Tsar showed no mercy to his royal heir. Alexei faced unspeakable suffering in the dark dungeons of the newly built stone fortress. The prince died under mysterious circumstances, likely silenced by his own father's loyal guards. What kind of ruler sacrifices his only son to protect his vision of a modern empire? As the painful years slowly passed, the muddy swamps of St. Petersburg finally transformed completely. Grand stone palaces with golden spires reflected beautifully on the freezing, crystal river waters. Massive ships from all over the world safely docked at the bustling ports, bringing enormous global wealth. The once isolated kingdom was now recognized as a formidable global superpower. The Swedish King Charles XII was completely defeated, his massive army utterly vanquished. European diplomats who once mocked the Tsar now bowed to his immense, terrifying authority. In 1721, Peter officially proclaimed himself the Grand Emperor of all Russia. The ancient Tsardom was dead, replaced by a glorious, rapidly expanding Western Empire. His giant bronze statues were erected across the city, casting long and imposing dark shadows. But the severe physical toll of his relentless and exhausting life finally caught up with him. In the freezing winter of 1725, the legendary emperor fell incredibly ill. Legend says he leaped into the icy waters to save drowning soldiers, finally sealing his dark fate. As he lay dying in his magnificent palace, his mind was tormented by his many brutal choices. He had forcefully dragged millions into the light, but the path was stained with an ocean of tragedy. He never named a clear successor, leaving the modern empire in a state of sudden, massive chaos. His very last written words were a desperate, unfinished plea. Leave absolutely everything to... The heavy pen dropped from his giant, trembling, tired hands, and the visionary tyrant breathed his last. The profound silence that followed his tragic death echoed deeply through the vast and terrified nation. Many conservative boyars secretly rejoiced, hoping to grow their sacred long beards once again. But the heavy gears of progress he had forcefully set in motion could never be reversed or stopped. The powerful modern navy he built continued to dominate the freezing waters of the Baltic Sea. The modern military institutions he established secured the empire's borders for centuries. The academic universities he founded produced brilliant scientists who changed the modern world. His radical reforms completely altered the cultural DNA of the massive Russian soul. St. Petersburg stood incredibly strong as a dazzling monument to his unbreakable willpower. History forces us to confront a highly uncomfortable truth about the nature of human progress. Sometimes, peaceful evolution is simply too weak to completely shatter the deep chains of the past. It requires a truly ruthless architect, willing to sacrifice millions to build a brand new tomorrow. He was the terrifying monster who dragged a sleeping giant out of the dark and into the blinding sun. His legacy is a complex tapestry woven with threads of brilliant light and the deepest sorrow. We cannot ignore the magnificent triumphs, nor can we forgive the absolutely tragic ruin. We see the glittering palaces of St. Petersburg, but we know the terrifying cost buried beneath. So tell us, was his extreme cruelty justified to modernize a nation, or the madness of a tyrant? Leave your brilliant thoughts below. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe for more epic history.